how do you get that intuition? How do you collect that intuition? What do we use as vehicles for that?
I mean, I like to, let's have the conversation around that tsunami first. And if you actually look on how industries are created and how waves take off, it's messy. So, and same as it is in fintech or other areas or whatever, there's going to be ups and downs and a mess, and something will evolve 3 to 5 years out. And it's not going to be a pretty process. So we're actually not evangelical about that, you know, the tsunami has arrived and this is going to be perfect, and actually we just got to ride this, and it's going to be much more messy to see what actually evolves. The truth around this is that the potential is there. The businesses will no longer tolerate that is left untapped. And there will be a number of methodologies and approaches that is about how do I get to that. We are one of those. So in practical terms, around how we work with businesses, there is no project in sight. So actually, coming back to Pavel's point around these day-to-day decisions, we collect smart data on people's behaviors and their underlying attitudes in a very low key, using smart technologies and interfaces on a long-term basis, building up a picture around people and individuals, pixel by pixel. And then using that information to make every little people decision a little bit better today than yesterday, and a little bit better tomorrow than today. That's the essence of what we do. It's continuous improvement being brought into people, guided by data.
By means of comparison, still coming back to the magnitude of the wave, just imagine 10 years ago, probably even longer than that, in marketing, that tsunami was at work. And in actual fact, to me, it was a real puzzle. How come that a similar approach using artificial intelligence, data science, algorithms is not penetrating the most valuable capital any company has, which is people. Now it is happening.
And it's extraordinary because through my career, pre-Senecon on at McKinsey and now here, I've done a lot of work in both in banking and in manufacturing. And there is nobody in manufacturing, in how you run a plant with lean, for example, that would tolerate the approach we take into the people side. With lots of uncoordinated interventions, with no information and no thinking about the system end to end. They will just say, you shall not enter my factory with that approach. Because that's not how you run the floor. It's a recipe for a productivity disaster. Yet on the people side, that's what we've done for decades and decades. Because just not really critically looked at it, like what marketing did 10 years ago. They say, actually, this is not good enough. And that's in effect what we've done.
So are we, coming back to one of your points, Pavel, are we getting rid of the traditional HR here?
Yes and no. You will always need administration of people, processes, and so on and so forth. But even those can be equipped with better insight. But I think the biggest beneficiary of this whole thing is the leader and his people. It might be, and it probably will be, supported and supplied through HR. In some of the companies you will have more substantial HR in center. At places you will have it closer to the people themselves. I think our ingredient can go straight to the people, to the leader. What is going to be the role of HR over time? I don't have a crystal ball, but I think both HR and the leaders are going to benefit tremendously from this.
And it's an interesting question because we always get it. And actually, HR is, a lot of people at HR go to work every day and try really hard and actually find, by and large, they're not at the table with the business people. And same was true of marketing 10 years ago. So this is, we don't see this as disrupting HR. We see this as modernizing HR. It's actually not a big deal. The question is the approach that HR takes to this, whether they embrace, and it varies from client to client, whether they embrace that we shall modernize the way we go about doing things, or we're going to try to stick to what we've been doing for 20 years, which is not the recipe for remaining or becoming relevant. So as long as HR embraces this and build new skills, because we are not trying to impose stuff from the side, we see this absolutely as integrated into people processes. So it is, but now whether you call it HR or not doesn't really matter, but it's digitizing and bringing intelligence into HR or people processes.